First of all, good afternoon. Yeah, we'll say a 4-4-2 probably in Dallas, more of a diamond. The last two a little bit more of a 4-4 straight. Um, Tactics are secondary always. I always say that. It's the spirit and the mentality that are more important. And what I've seen in the past three games is the team back, the enthusiasm, the willingness to work, a team working together, executing a plan, and that makes a difference. And I have to say that it's been very, very good, especially the last game, because I think against Toronto, not only were able to defend well and be a good defensive team with a block that wasn't all the way deep, we didn't park the bus. We were just difficult to be broken down. And when we had the ball, we were able to manage the ball, to possess, to unbalance the opposition, and Toronto is a very good team. So more credit to the guys for the game that they executed. So for me, we just have to continue to maintain the same spirit, and be honest to the job that we do and the way we have done, and continue to improve, because there's areas still that we have to become better.
What have you seen out of your back line the last couple of weeks that you've liked? And have you seen any chemistry between Larry's and Bill starting to form back in sort of central defense there?
Yeah, more than the chemistry between both of them, which, they speak French both, so they can communicate very well. Not only that, in English as well. But is the commitment of the entire team to defend and to make sure that we help each other. Sometimes we tend to point right away the defenders when we're getting goals. It's not only the defenders, the whole team has to defend, and now we're doing that as a group, and it's more difficult, and then that gives a little bit more security to the defensive players to be more comfortable, to do things in a better way, and they looked a lot more engaged, they much better, and this area still, as I said before, that we have to improve. There's still little things that we saw in this past game that can be a little bit better, and we're going to continue to work that way, but the entire group is defending in a much better way with a commitment that is difficult for teams to break us down.
Coach, in each of your two responses, you mentioned areas to continue to improve, continue to get better. What are some of the first things that come to mind when you say that?
There's little things always, I'm not going to go in full details in the things that we can be better, but definitely there's areas that we can improve a little bit more, that we can do a better job, but we're starting now from a great starting point, because the mentality, the spirit, there's little things that you see in the past game that, give you a feeling that this team now is ready to be able to do things in a much better way, and still it's going to be difficult. We still have to go away from home. We still have 4 more games against difficult teams, and we have to just make sure that we take one game at a time and keep the same effort that we have shown in the past games, and especially execute the plan, which the guys have done in a perfect way, especially the last game.
Abobasi with goals in back-to-back weeks. How does it change your team whenever he's consistently sort of contributing like that? And does it change the way that you look at your roster going forward if he can be a consistent scorer for you guys?
Yeah, first of all, he's been doing definitely much better since he started against Colorado last year. And he earned a starting position, and he's been right now the player that's been starting most of the last games last season, and probably almost all the games this season. Probably one game against Cincinnati is the only game that he didn't start. So I think each game he has matured a little bit more. I see a Jeremy that is making better runs, is more comfortable, is making better decisions, is becoming a lot more mature in different aspects. The game, holding the ball better, linking up much better, defending a much better way. So all this credit to him, because it's not only just playing. Some people say, the more you play, the better you become. It's not only that. You have to understand what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to execute on the field. And Jebo has done that. He's reflected. He's works a lot right after practice. We stay with him. And that has allowed him to become better. And then performance like this against Toronto, not only scoring the goal, but also what he did during the game, how he linked up with Valeri and the guys on top was very good. And then also what he did defensively. If we go back to Columbus, there was a clip that we showed the guys that he was inside our box defending their attack, and that, there are very, very important things that you can see from a guy like Jeb, who's a youngster still, but maturing very, very rapidly.
Coach, you mentioned you still have 4 more games on this long road stint, but 2 of them are relatively short trips coming up to Real Salt Lake and then to Vancouver, as opposed to flying back east every week. How much does it help you to be able to spend that extra time in market thanks to those shorter trips?
It's always better when you have more time to practice, and rest, and more time for the players to stay at home a little bit and be with the family, because sometimes we take for granted the mental part of the game, and we're always talking about tactics, technique. He's making this mistake, but sometimes it's difficult for players to be away so long, and when mentally you are not when you're stressed mentally and tired, then that doesn't allow you to execute the same way. So for us to travel a little bit shorter, to be a little more time with family, definitely helps in this final stretch of the away games that we have to play.
You mentioned Larry's and Bill sharing a language, which I would assume makes sense, but what sort of skills do you think that they have that allows them to complement each other well as a partnership? Why do you think that that's been so effective for you guys?
Yeah, I would extend that to say that Diana and Cascante, they all have attributes that help each other in having me make some tough decisions on who has to start in the back, as a center backs. So I feel also guys like Cascante, when he came into the game, and Diana constantly in practice, competing, they all bring something different, but they all can play together and complement each other. And that's what you want as a coach, and that's what you want as a club.
Coach, I believe Andres Flores has started 3 games in a row now. From your point of view, what has he been doing well, and do you feel like he's starting to secure a place in the starting 11?
I know Russo for a long time, and he gives you always an honest work, smart work, good decisions on the field, and he execute, what we ask him to execute, and he's been helping in these past games what we wanted to achieve, and he's been competing. I think last year when he came into the games, he did a great job. And so far it's been very good what he's contributed. But I don't want to only point one person, Flores, who's done great. It's also the guys that have been playing. I mean, go back to Polo coming in the game. His first play was a counter that ended up being an opportunity for Chara to score the 3rd goal. And that's him coming from the bench. Cascante, right away as soon as he came in, was ready. It looked like he was playing the entire match. Luca Villafaña, the sprint that he made from the warm-up to the bench, he came inside right away. He started playing on the right side the first few minutes because he couldn't go to the left side. That shows you that now the team is in the right mentality. Can we keep it? Hopefully. I think so. But this is what, what you want from each player, and relates to guys like Flores when they step on the field, that they get the job done.
Speaking of mentality, I wanted to ask you about the 2 games you played against Real Salt Lake last year, which, looking back on it, seemed like a turning point when the team had struggled in Minnesota and needed to really start to build towards that home stretch. What do you remember about those 2 performances, and looking back at last year, how important do you feel the team's performance was in getting those 2 really convincing victories? Yeah,
no doubt that was a turning point for us, and playing against Real Salt Lake and getting a good result and play the way we played allow us to lift the confidence and be able to give us what we needed in order to have the opportunity to make it all the way to the final. And I feel that was a very important turning point for sure. I agree with you. But this game is completely different. It doesn't matter if they have a lot of the same players. This is going to be completely different. I'm sure that their approach is going to be different for their part. So we expect different things, and we have to be prepared to execute and do the things that we need to do in this match that are going to be different than what we've done before. So no other game is the same, and for us, we just go in there to try to get as many points as we can.
And then one last question about the defense. You mentioned earlier in one of your responses playing a medium or higher block, not just settling into a low block. And we saw Bill Tuiloma recover, and I think it was the 7th minute on Jordan Hamilton this weekend and cover that space. How important is it to have somebody like Bill and his athleticism to be able to cover that space behind when you are deciding how high you're going to be able to play your line?
Yeah, I will say anybody of the 4 center backs have to be able to do that in those moments when we have the ball and we are playing now in the opposition half, which we did in a good way a lot of the game in Toronto. So we just need to make sure that we are ready, that when we lose the ball that we can cover, that we are smart enough to be able to understand what we need to do at those moments. And I feel the 4 center backs that we have can do a great job, and Tuiloma did a fantastic job in doing that in the last game, besides the goal that he scored, which was a gem. I think defensively he contributed in this past game, but I feel secure about the 4 center backs that we have.
Profe, en español, no se habían dado los resultados y ahora 2 victorias. ¿En qué ha consistido? ¿Ha sido que el grupo ya se conocen más todos los jugadores, o ha sido simplemente que hoy ya se están acostumbrando a sentir jugar fuera como en casa?
Los jugadores siempre se conocían desde el principio, o sea, no es una cuestión de si se conocían o no, es una cuestión de mentalidad. Yo creo que en este momento todos están trabajando unidos en un mismo propósito, y eso ha dado un cambio, y yo creo que ahora el grupo está mucho más fuerte. Conseguir resultados positivos ayuda a la confianza, a la mentalidad, y yo creo que eso ha sido sumamente importante en estos 2 partidos, y Dios mediante que podamos conseguir ese mismo camino en los próximos partidos que tenemos fuera de casa, que van a ser complicados, pero la mentalidad ha cambiado, y eso ha sido, yo creo que fundamental para nosotros.
Me ha gustado que siempre ha dicho, cuando estaban perdiendo, dijo usted, la culpa es mía, y cuando han ganado, has dicho, los jugadores son los que han hecho. ¿Por qué? ¿Usted transmite eso a ellos?
Totalmente, es así. Yo soy el primero en tomar responsabilidad cuando las cosas no van bien, y hay que darle mucho crédito a los muchachos cuando las cosas van bien, porque ellos traen esa actitud y mentalidad que es necesaria para conseguir resultados. Yo no puedo entrar dentro de la cancha y jugar. Eso fue hace muchos años atrás. Por eso es importante que los jugadores hagan su trabajo, y cuando conseguimos cosas positivas hay que darle crédito a los jugadores.
Finalmente, 2 partidos que, como decían, él decía, no, van a ser cerca. Eso va a ayudar, como dice, al jugador. Tienen más tiempo para entrenar y ellos estar con su familia. ¿Ayuda bastante para conseguir resultados?
Sin duda que ayuda bastante para llegar mejor. No quiere decir que ayude a conseguir resultados. También nosotros tenemos que ser suficientemente buenos para entender de que tenemos que trabajar fuerte, que tenemos que seguir con honestidad el trabajo que hemos hecho hasta ahora, y que solamente esto que para nosotros es positivo, el hecho de que no tenemos que viajar tan lejos, tenemos que aprovecharlo y demostrarlo en la cancha y sacar puntos. Pero si no lo hacemos con la mentalidad justa, nadie nos va a regalar nada.
Finalmente, ¿qué se espera? Este encuentro, van por otro triunfo, otro resultado allá, obviamente, ¿verdad?
Siempre vamos a la cancha para ganar, siempre vamos a tratar de sumar puntos, y no va a ser nada diferente estos juegos que nos quedan fuera de casa. Thank you, gracias. Thank you.